Live from the Z-Town Radio Complex, it's the Mike and Veronica Show.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
We're here with Nikolas. He is the designer of the Universe project, a highly ambitious game that he plans to design and release. Tell us about the name game, Nikolas.
Sure. So the Universe project is meant to model the human experience as it pertains to civilization and invention and discovery. So where most games tend to focus on something specific, some sort of specific gameplay, like let's say you might get first-person shooters where your intention as you're playing Counter-Strike or something like that, where you're meant to like take out a specific team of terrorists and you're playing online, or World of Warcraft where the focus is fairly small and very controlled. Mm-hmm. The Universe project is meant to be a game that you can play, that plays like a game, but sort of opens it up to try to model the human experience over time as closely as possible.
All right. And what inspired you to make a Universe project?
Sorry, say that again?
What inspired you to make the Universe project?
Well, I started programming when I was 10, and I didn't have any games growing up, but I really wanted to play games because when I was a kid, my friends always had games. So my father introduced me to a basic programming language, which I started off on. I started writing some really, really simple text-based games that I would play a lot, all by myself. And eventually, he noticed that I was really like getting into this. I mean, I was doing this like every moment that I could get. And so when I was 12, he bought me another basic derivative of a programming language, but it was capable of 3D functions. So when I was 12, I wrote my first 3D space shooter, and it sounds impressive, but I mean it's all basic. And it's kind of funny, actually. The shooter itself was, I didn't know what an array was at the time, so, like, basically, as you're flying through space and trying to fight this enemy ship, if you missed, you have to wait for the bullet to time out before you can shoot again. Because, like, literally, I just didn't know how to make it so you can fire multiple bullets at once. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so this went on and has been going on ever since, where I've been developing games on my own. And in particular, when I hit 16, I was playing Warcraft 2 actually, and at some point, as probably with a lot of gamers in their teens, they realized like how amazing it would be to have like a whole universe of this, where it's not just some specific scenario you're playing. You're actually like playing in a real universe, and I've heard online a lot of people talking about how they've had the exact same idea. And it seems to really hit home with people. So, but for me, when I hit 16, I got this idea, and I thought, in a matter of years, I'm guessing probably decades, this is eventually going to become a reality. I mean, obviously, someone's going to make a game like this. And it was at that point I decided to devote my life to learning the technologies and researching and getting better at development and programming, graphic design, everything that I could that would allow me to try to produce a game like this.
All right, so you're not only doing the programming, you're doing the design too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, the intention is not to be doing it by myself. I do have some other people who have helped me along the way. But at this point, it would be considered a bootleg operation, where over the last few years I've been working mostly myself, but also other people as well, to develop technical demos demonstrating the technology and that it is possible to create some of the more ambitious aspects of the Universe project.
All right. I mean, it sounds like a really cool, project. It sounds, really ambitious, but possible.
Yeah, no, it's totally possible. In fact, in the past couple of years in particular, you can sort of see that there's like the perfect storm of technology coming together, in particular regarding HTML5. And I mean, the point for the Universe project is for it to be able to be released on every conceivable platform. So game consoles, desktops, smartphones, anything that can run a web browser, anything that can run HTML5 should be able to play a game like this.
Wow, so
yeah.
So you could be on your Xbox playing with somebody who's on their PC or Mac.
Yeah, or like walking around like, the store playing on their smartphone,
Yeah, I've never really seen anything like that before, so that'd be really amazing.
Yeah, the way the games have been as of late seems to be more like, especially browser games. They all tend to be the same sort of game. Like, you'll have massive online browser games, but none of them really try to go for the real-time experience, and that's definitely something that I want to break. So, yeah.
And one question I have that really fascinates me is, how exactly will players create technology?
Well, the model for that was designed out of our actual human experience. So, without going into too much detail, because it is a unique way of representing that sort of side of things, players will essentially get ideas for new inventions, and then they'll be able to develop those ideas and hone them and get better at them, just like a human person would in real life. And that's sort of the plan for that.
And will players start off in where will players start off once the game first starts up?
Well, at first, certainly there's going to be a designated zone where players will generally start off. But very quickly, like, people are going to want to join up with each other, like your friends and whatnot. So there's definitely going to be a system where you're going to be able to spawn in and among your friends, so that you can be together and play together. But for some people, they don't actually want that. Sometimes they may want sort of like a Minecraft experience where they're sort of off on their own, and there's also going to be a possibility for that, where they can choose to be created in a world that's far from civilization, although still maybe close enough to be found at some point.
Yeah, because that's the way I am. I usually like to be a lone wolf when I play games like that.
Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, it'd be interesting too, because the technology is essentially developed by the players. The technology, the infrastructure, and infrastructure fuels technological improvement as well. So, finding a civilization that started like far off from the main center point would be interesting after a while, to see the differences in technology between the main, which I assume that is probably going to be a main core of players on some sort of mainland.
Yeah, I mean, that would be... the whole concept is just really interesting. Players spreading out, and then seeing how the technology is different for each region and area.
Mm-hmm.
And will the currency be player created, or will it be native to the game? Will you design it yourself?
Yeah, so, just to keep true to the whole paradigm, like, the players themselves are going to have to create their own currency. So what will most likely happen at first is you're just going to get basic trading. So someone who's harvested wood of some kind, certain types of wood, will be trading it for food. I mean, just like they would have, in ancient times. And eventually, as governments pop out, towns pop out, there's going to be the ability to create currency, actual coinage, or, whatever. I mean, a currency can come out of anything. So, yeah, a generally accepted currency, I'm assuming, is going to come out of this. But as a developer, I don't have an interest in trying to enforce that on anyone. So, it'll be up to the players. As for common currency, there is going to be microtransactions, so real money will be able to be used between players, but you wouldn't be able to, as a player, you're not able to go ahead and buy just 100 wood with money just out of thin air. It's got to be purchased from another player. So in that sense, there's not going to be ridiculous inflation that sometimes occurs with other games.
And will there be will each area have its own currency depending on who settles there?
I would think so at first. I mean, it's only my guess that eventually it would probably combine into a single currency, but maybe not. I mean, I don't know. It really depends on how things go when it gets released.
All right. Will all the players be in the same world, or will they be in will there be some sort of server system that allows players to be on different servers, different worlds?
Definitely, all the players will be in the same world. There's going to be multiple servers handling that same world, and the plan at this point is to have basically to zone the planet based on population. So if you have a high density population in one part, that might actually be handled by a couple servers, and the zones will be dynamic based on the need and the population that gets spread out. And as one player passes from one server to the next, basically there's a sort of a neutral zone where both servers are handling the same player, and eventually gets handed off, so only one server is handling it. So that's sort of an overview of how the scaling and server structure is going to come about. That was actually pretty hot question over the last couple of weeks.
So it all just depends on how populated the area is and how much bandwidth it uses?
Yeah, based on need, essentially.
All right. And are there any rules in Project Universe Project? Sorry. And if so, who enforces these rules?
Yeah. So, well, the players themselves, of course, they'll be claiming territory and starting tribes or towns or governments of some kind. And the rules for those particular areas would be managed by those in charge of that area. And of course, there's no solid mechanic for who's in charge, other than the fact that all the players that are a member of that particular group will choose to say, yes, these are the rules that I will follow. So in a sense, there's going to be a mechanic to make sure that everyone understands what rules are for a particular area. But it's not going to be really hard coded in there, so you have to. It really makes it up to the players, so that they have a really dynamic and freeing experience, I suppose.
And what happens if players create a war?
Yeah, well, that I'm sure that'll happen. The thing is, it's not like other games where wars actually would be really easy. In this game, the logistics of having a full-scale war with thousands of players involved would be fairly difficult to really handle well, which isn't all that dissimilar to how it would have been in real life in ancient times before there was the technology to communicate with each other efficiently. So there are going to be mechanics for controlling a large group of people, and that'll sort of look like basically waypoints, I suppose, that can be given to players from other players who are controlling the war, essentially. And there's going to be other mechanics as well, even for automation of players to a certain extent. But yeah, so wars would be interesting. Maybe battles, like something like a little, not as huge as a war, those might be more common, I would think.
It sounds like when technology advances, these wars could get really big and really nasty once people are developing vehicles, maybe even planes, stuff that could fly, stuff that could, more advanced boats. It sounds like these wars could just destroy the whole world, technically.
Yeah, it's possible, but the thing is, like, there's going to be a lot of people who are not in favor of war and would be interested in defending against that sort of thing. There's going to be a lot of investment from infrastructure and development that is worth protecting, and I think people who are interested in fighting, but are fighting to preserve that people are going to come out and want to do that. Then there's going to be others who are simply interested in destruction. But those types of people it's hard for them to organize because you need to find a lot of people that are interested in the same thing as you. And I would say that probably more people are interested in protecting what they've developed than there are people just wanting to wreak havoc. That being said, of course, there's going to be groups that are just out to pillage and destroy. But there's definitely mechanics in place to help build up your defenses against that sort of thing. And even at the earliest of stages, it won't be so easy as just people walking around, killing everybody.
Now, if somebody wanted to kill somebody, could they just go up to a person and kill them, or is it more complicated than that?
Well, they can, yeah. The thing is, you're going to have the characters. They're not going to have such enormous differences in strength. So, like in massive online games of today, you generally, if you're like a level 10 and you come up against a level 20, there's really nothing you can do. Like, you're just toast. And,
yeah.
Same goes to like 100, and if you're level 1. So those kinds of extreme differences don't really exist in real life. Like, even if you're a really strong guy, you can generally do something against an average person, right? So, but at the same time, if you're really, if you're a really big guy and you're coming up against someone who's like a brainiac and who's got, no muscle on him whatsoever, there's probably not much you can do. So the idea is to model that sort of experience also. And technology is actually going to be the biggest indicator of strength, or the biggest giver of power, I suppose. So, as technology progresses, it's sort of it'll be one of the driving forces for progressing technology in the first place. The fact that you need defense against people who want to do you harm. So
at the beginning, it'll be. Oh, continue.
No, sorry, go ahead.
So at the beginning, it'll be more about strength, and then as it progresses and technologies get better and more powerful, it'll be more about who has the best technology and not who's the strongest or smartest?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, later on, certainly there's going to be castles and an infrastructure in place, people ready to defend at a moment's notice, and some of that, like, we don't have to necessarily rely on people wanting to defend all the time. Like I said, there's going to be a certain amount of character automation involved, and in particular when it comes to defense against, that sort of, like, malicious activity.
Somebody brought up online, what exactly happens when a player starts getting old or starts aging?
Sure. Okay, so at this point, there's going to be probably 4 stages of life, 3 for some, 4 for some. So the first stage, you can actually be born into the game sort of as a child, and there's benefits there where you're basically given some extra bonuses for coming into the world that way. And there's a little bit of extra protection for that based on game mechanics, which I can't go into detail just yet. But that's sort of like that's sort of one way to start in the world, and then from there, eventually, and it wouldn't take too long either. Eventually, you'd age into like sort of like an adult or a young adult actually at first. And as a young adult, you're able enough to do pretty much anything you want to do. but you're still fairly weak compared to a full-sized adult, and your stats would be lower than most. And then as a full-sized adult, that's sort of where you're at your prime. That's where people will spend most of their time. That's where your stats are at their greatest. It's easiest to gain strength. It's easiest, like you tend to have a better time with your strength and dexterity stats. And then eventually, after probably a long while, you'll turn into, an older person, and where it's more difficult to maintain that sort of strength and dexterity, but intellectually you'll find sort of benefits there because you continue to have that sort of intellectual strength, and sort of naturally, like we wouldn't have to provide bonuses to intellect at that point, because just the fact that you've done so much over your life, presumably, that will actually help you to invent more and discover more and have more ideas.
So is it possible for a player to die from old age?
No, there won't be death from old age. It's just the only detriment would be the fact that it's more difficult to be the strong man.
All right. And so later it'll rely more on who's smarter than who's stronger once you become older. That'll be your stronger point.
Yeah.
Intellect.
Yeah, like at that point, you'll probably will have gathered a fair amount of wealth, enough to protect yourself. Technology will be there. Probably will have owned some buildings, and maybe even more. Maybe you're at that point the leader of a town of some kind. I don't know. So yeah.
And can players create multiple characters, or are they limited to that one character?
That's a little up in the air. It'll require some play testing, but at this point, I think that there's probably going to be a limit to how many characters you can create per account. But and the reason for that would be mostly because because of the automation that would be in place for characters, and you could really, if you're allowed to create as many characters as you want, you'd be able to create an army essentially. So yeah, there would most likely be a cap on the characters, and although during like beta testing, there won't be a cap until the final release.
All right, this is a community question. He wanted to know if there will be any evolution, any sort of will players evolve at all, depending on what region they're in.
Evolution in the widely accepted sense won't be occurring, but certainly there's the form of evolution through technological growth, the evolution of technology. But no, characters will essentially stay the same.
All right, so the region doesn't affect how how players are able to deal with certain elements, or they won't evolve depending on what zone or area they're in. Well,
like those, it's always going to be a human character, and the way that they gain stats and progress will always stay the same. Of course, like the way that they from a character in a different region is certainly going to have different challenges. So like weather will be different, the resources and the types of resources will be different. So they'll be creating different tools based on the needs that they have.
And what do you say to people who say this is too ambitious of a project, who say it might not take off?
Yeah, well, the thing is, if I had heard about a project like this without knowing what I know, I would agree with them. I mean, like, it certainly sounds crazy and too ambitious, especially because the introductory video that was released, it was very vague, and I understand that. Like, the reason for it being vague is that there's still a lot that we can't reveal without risking, without like jeopardizing the work we've been doing over the last few years. So it's really just, the video itself is just meant as a way to gain a sort of interest base, because without that we'll be starting from scratch in a few years when we do have something, and we're just going to be that much stronger when we start, if we're starting earlier. But as far as it being too ambitious, it seems like the consensus is that, like, for things like well, first of all, they say, well, the planet is too big. Like, there's no way that you'll need 1 million servers to host a planet of that size. Well, if you consider, like, Minecraft is an infinite world, and this planet would really not be any different. It's procedurally generated the same way Minecraft would be, and it's just like it doesn't really work that way. You don't have to literally be simulating the entire planet at all times. And then the other thing is, people are saying, well, it's too ambitious because, you can't release a game on every single platform. But, like, this is a website. Like, it's a game, but, I mean, it's going to be, literally, it's going to be a website that plays like a modern game. So even though it's going to be, 2D top-down view or isometric at first, eventually it'll be 3D. But the way that HTML5 technology is going, eventually 3D is going to be on the desktop in a really big way. And sort of like we're getting ready for that in the designs. We know that we're going to be moving to a fully 3D experience when the technology is there for it. The technology right now is almost at the point where a really crisp, smooth 2D real-time game it would be playable on all platforms. As of like this year, I think smartphones would probably have the hardest time with that. But I mean, that's advancing like on a monthly basis, and eventually and not too long from now, we're going to be at a point where 2D games are going to be no problem on any platform. So I think like we're sort of looking ahead here. We know that it's coming, and right now, like I said before, this is like the perfect storm of technology to have a game like this come about.
And I mean, before HTML5, how did you plan on making this game? A cross-platform, top-down 2D game like this?
Yeah, so because I've been planning this for so long, the thing is, I wasn't actually planning on making it on all platforms to begin with, because that sort of wasn't there. I understood that at some point it would be, but I didn't know, and I had no control over that. So now that I see that it's coming together right now, and it just sort of makes sense. I mean, it's the technology. I just have to decide to use the right technology that'll allow me to release it on all platforms, and that happens to be HTML5 in my opinion.
All right. And real quick, before we go, I have one last question for you. It seems to be a popular one. Will Earth be an exact copy of the Earth we're on now, or will it be different?
It'll definitely be different. It's the size of Earth, but we're going to be designing to an extent. We'll be designing like the sort of like general makeup of the continents and the islands to make it most interesting from a gameplay perspective. So, how exactly is yet to be determined. But I mean, the sorts of things that we'll be interested in is like a fairly diverse set of like climates, mountain ranges with plains and deserts fairly nearby, lakes and rivers and jungles and whatnot, and trying to and colder regions as well, and while still like obeying the rules of nature, trying to like sort of come up with a configuration that would be most interesting to play with it for players.
All right. Well, it sounds like an awesome project. Thank you for coming on. Do you want to quickly plug your project? Do you want to put an advertisement for it?
Sure.
Video?
Just go to universeprojects.com, and basically you can sign up there by putting in your email address. And once you sign up, you'll be able to refer your friends. There's some referral bonuses for those you actually get to sign up. And advertise on Facebook and Twitter, and also there's a blog now that contains some of the answers to the more popular questions, and as well by signing up to that and Facebook and some of the other social media sites, you'll have a certain amount of updates for how things are going, and you'll know basically when we're getting closer to a release.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on. Can't wait to hear how this game is going. I will keep myself updated on it.
Cool. Thank you very much.
All right, we're gonna go to break real quick, and we'll be back with the show in a little bit. See you guys. You know what, I'll think we'll just go from here. You can check Universe Project out at longitude.universeprojects.com. Be sure to subscribe via email to get the most recent updates on the Universe Project. We're out.
Yo, man. Bitches ain't shit and they ain't saying nothing. 100 motherfuckers can't tell me nothing. I bees in the trap, bees in the trap. I bees in the trap, bees in the trap. Bitches ain't shit and they ain't saying nothing. 100 motherfuckers can't tell me nothing. I bees in the trap, bees in the trap. I bees in the trap, bees in the trap. Man, I been did that. Man, I been popped off. And if she ain't tryna give it up, she get dropped off. Let me bust that UE, bitch, bust that open. Might spend a couple thou just to bust that open. Rip it off, no joking. Like your name Hulk Hogan. Niggas move weight in the south, but live in Hoboken. Bitch, I spit that crap like I'm in that trap. So if you need a hit, then I'm with that bag. Bitches ain't shit and they ain't saying nothing. 100 motherfuckers can't tell me nothing. I bees in the trap, bees in the trap. I bees in the trap, bees in the trap. Bitches ain't shit and they ain't saying nothing. 100 motherfuckers can't tell me nothing. I bees in the trap, bees in the trap. I bees in the trap, bees in the trap. Damn, what they say about me? I don't know, man. Fuckers on your biscuit. If I get hit, swinging on a big bitch. I don't know, man. I'm shitting on your whole life. Damn, what they say about me? I don't know, man. Fuckers on your biscuit. If I get hit, swinging on a big bitch. I don't know, man. I'm shitting on your whole life. Bitches ain't shit and they ain't saying nothing. 100 motherfuckers can't tell me nothing. I bees in the trap, bees in the trap. I bees in the trap, bees in the trap. Man, I'm out in Texas. Man, I'm out in A-Town. Then I'm up in Chi-Town or Miami shutting down. It's that New Orleans. It's LA or the Bay. It's New York, Philly, and the whole DMV. I'm a Detroit player. Man, it's North-South Cat. Ohio, Pittsburgh. Got St. Louis on deck. It's Delaware, Connecticut. It's New Jersey. Got hella bricks. It's Queens, Brooklyn, and yeah, they wildin'. Bronx, Harlem, and Staten Island. Bitches ain't shit and they ain't saying nothing. 100 motherfuckers can't tell me nothing. I bees in the trap, bees in the trap. I bees in the trap, bees in the trap. Damn, what they say about me? I don't know, man. Fuckers on your biscuit. If I get hit, swinging on a big bitch. I don't know, man. I'm shitting on your whole life. Damn, what they say about me? I don't know, man. Fuckers